Welcome back to Cinema Flicks and Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with most, the beast with the least. Least we can do today is continue on with Jimmy Stewart month, and believe me, it is the least. But also to take time before that to tell you what I did last night, which some of you will already be aware of, because some of you have subscribed because of it. I was on Sea of Tranquility again, this time in the Monsters Den, talking all things Amicus horror. So horror portmanteaus, werewolves, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's adaptations, all there. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, all your favourites. If I do say so myself, it was a damn good episode. And not just because I was on it, Pete was absolutely wonderful. The comments have been really great, the feedback's been fantastic. And happy to say Pete's already reached out about future Monster Den appearances, so hey. No, play it cool. So I'm going to stick a link in the description for anybody who isn't an avid viewer of Sea of Tranquility, which you should be, because SOT is one of the best music websites, one of the best music channels, because it is a website and a channel, and also does a weekly horror show, and I'm on the Curse of the Collector shows once a month at the moment. We're maybe looking at 2 a month in the future, but we'll see. However, that takes care of the fun part. Now, Jimmy Stewart month, it's a wonderful month. I said in yesterday's video that I like the notion of not just picking the Hitchcocks, the Anthony Manns, the Frank Capras, the real big hitters for Jimmy Stewart, and instead liked to throw the odd curveball in. So yesterday we had Magic Town, which nobody else seems to have seen, and a few people said, well, it sounds quite interesting, it's on my list. And a few other people said, doesn't sound interesting, it's not on my list. Fair enough. I don't think it's that great, so I'm not going to shed tears for Magic Town. But I thought, well, isn't that a bit patronising to think, I can throw even Jimmy Stewart fans curveballs. People think they quite like Jimmy Stewart, but they might not know all those moves. I can throw them a curveball, when there's still holes that I need to plug in my Jimmy Stewart knowledge. So I decided that I would pick a few of the films that he made that I haven't seen but have been released, and I would grab those, and I wouldn't read up on them. I would just grab them so that I could go in fresh as a daisy and make my mind up. And with that in mind, I picked up Mr. Kruger's Christmas, the 25th anniversary edition, because we all need a special edition of this. This isn't going to be pretty, folks. It's not going to be pretty at all. Not like myself. Mr. Kruger's Christmas is sadly not a film about what Freddy does when it comes to December. It would be a much more interesting film if it was. Jimmy Stewart as Freddy Krueger. You imagine that? Oh, this here is God, bitch. That would be amazing. This, So Jimmy Stewart and Christmas, you're probably not thinking Mr. Kruger at the start. Here's the interesting thing, and the thing that I was really happy with when I realised what this was. When it says 25th anniversary edition, that's also the run time. It's 25 minutes long. It's 25 minutes. Jimmy Stewart plays Mr. Kruger, who's a handyman. He works in a building downtown in New York, and then he goes home to his basement apartment in a block of flats where he's the super. And he's a lonely old man who's lost his wife, and he celebrates Christmas with a little, poor little tree and his cat, George, certainly not named after George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. But it's so maudlin and so schlocky and so sappy and saccharine. Right, I'll go into it. On his way home from his job, sweeping the floors. This is a poor old man. On Christmas Eve, he buys this little tree, the only one he can afford, and he looks in a shop window. A fine suit is in the shop window, and while he sits there in his shabby clothes, he has a daydream and sees himself being fitted for a fine suit, and a young lady admires him as he stands there. Cut to him back in the middle of the New York street going, oh. So at this point you can start to wonder, is Mr. Kruger on drugs, or has he got dementia? Probably both. We go home with Mr. Kruger, and the daydreams don't stop there. He puts on his brand new record, as he refers to it, which just so happens to be a Christmas record, of all out of copyright Christmas songs. And he puts those on, and it's done by let's get their name right. Tabernacle Choir, and they sing their Christmas crap, Joy to the World, whatever. Right, so Jesus, born as the King of Israel. That's not how you pronounce the word. That doesn't rhyme. Born as the King of Israel. No, it doesn't rhyme anymore. Just pronounce it Israel. Jesus Christ. Anyway, he has a daydream where, while he's listening to the music, all of a sudden he's conducting the choir. And while they're all sitting there in their fineries and suits and ball dresses, Mr. Kruger, as the conductor, is still wearing a shabby old man outfit. So even in his dreams, he can't quite combine that nice suit he had in the last daydream with being a conductor. He can't quite do both at once. He then imagines, in a daydream within the daydream, it's a bit Nightmare on Elm Street when you think about it, dreams within dreams, that he takes the choir to a winter wonderland, and they obviously couldn't afford a reindeer because he comes on a horse and a sled, like Christmas tradition, the cowboy Christmas, and he picks up the choir and they all sing choral hymns, while his carols, I guess they call them, probably, on the back of this sleigh, horse-ridden sleigh. I mean, they could have at least just made up a prosthetic thing to put over the horse's head and pretend it's a reindeer, couldn't they? I'm not talking about gluing anything on a poor horse. I'm not, one of these NFL players that likes animal cruelty. I'm a nice guy, I love dogs. Actually, I don't care too much for horses. Yeah, I do eat one with horses, I'm not too bothered. They eat them in France, so, mind you, they eat anything, don't they? Snails. So that's a daydream within a daydream. And Mr. Kruger wakes up from that, and he hears that, my goodness, there's a bunch of carol singers walking past the door, and he opens up his little door from the basement and goes, down here, and they all stop and go, can we help you? He says, would you like to come in? I'll make you some chocolate. And they have a conference over this and decide, yes, they will come in. So they do come in, and they have a look around, sing a hymn and leave. They do not get their chocolate. Why did they come in? It's never explained. Maybe in the extended director's cut of Mr. Kruger's Christmas, there may be an explanation. So they sing a hymn, or a whatever carol, and they leave. But there's a twist. He's a bit sad that he left, because he's now alone at Christmas, just him and George the cat and the piss poor tree. So he looks at a little nativity scene that he has set up, and he looks a little more, and all of a sudden, what a day for a daydream. He has another daydream, and all of a sudden Mr. Kruger is in Bethlehem at 1 hour AD. He sees the wise men, shepherds, Joseph. None of them can see him, so it's a bit, a Christmas Carol. Oh, I shouldn't mention that classic with this. But he sees the baby in the manger. Guess who? Yes, it's Jesus, played by the whitest baby you can imagine. That beautiful milky white that every Middle Eastern man 2,000 years ago would have had. I'm being quite facetious in this video, can you tell? And Jimmy, God bless him, he does his best even with this crap. I know he was a religious man, but I'm going to tell you something in a minute about the back of this box that really makes me go, oh Jesus, what did I do? He delivers a speech to the baby Jesus, where he thanks him for being there for him in his darkest hours when he lost his wife. And he thanks him for reminding him that you have to be neighbourly, because he used to be a bit of a meanie when he was a younger superintendent of that building. But then he remembered the words that you spoke, baby Jesus. And then he says, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I love you. I've always loved you. And I've always known in my heart that you love me, Jesus. And at this point, I am trying so hard not to laugh when I'm watching the movie, but it was almost impossible because it's so over the top religious, it's not real. So he wakes up from that daydream and he's a bit teary-eyed because, he's just had a religious moment where he literally met the baby Jesus, who didn't talk much being a baby. Very, difficult to get dialogue out of babies. Have to be overdubbed and things. But wouldn't you know who won the pony? The choir folk who were there a minute ago. Why, the little girl who was with them, she left her mittens. So there's a knock at the door, and excuse me, Mr. Kruger, did little Susie here forget her mittens? Oh yes, she did. Yes, I put them on the tree. Why did you do that, creepy old man? Because whenever I see a beautiful child's face, I can't think of anything more Christmassy. And she says, okay, and he says, well, how about that chocolate? And she says, no, we are out here, Mr. Kruger. Cheerio. And he says, wait a second. I want you, little Susie, to have something. And he gives little Susie the baby Jesus from the Nativity. Isn't that lovely? And then little Susie says, why don't you come with us, Mr. Kruger? You can sing with us. You can sing all the carols. And the mother says, I'm sure Mr. Kruger has much too much to be getting on with. And Mr. Kruger says, yeah, not really. I'm kind of sad and lonely. She says, well, we are looking for a good bass. Ooh, I can sing bass. And so Mr. Kruger sings bass with the choir. You never get to see that because Jimmy Stewart wasn't a very strong singer, certainly wasn't a bass singer either. But he takes little Susie's hand and they walk out the building, and Susie, who's met Mr. Kruger maybe 10 minutes earlier, hugs him and says, I love you, Mr. Kruger. And Mr. Kruger smiles at her, and a voice comes on and says, that's right, Susie loved Mr. Kruger, just as Jesus loves all of you. I'm sorry if you're religious for many reasons, but jeez, I lost it. I just lost it. I couldn't anymore. And I mentioned that there was something on this that that wrong alarm bell was the minute I opened the package up. So again, I purely ordered it knowing it was a Jimmy Kruger. It was a Jimmy Stewart movie that I didn't know, and I knew it was a Christmas film. That's all I knew. And when I opened the box, I see the cover, and the cover's quite nice, even if the font's a little, hard to read there. But it's done quite classily in a, old style way. Read if you can read the bottom there. Yes, it's just above the DVD logo. It is from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, www.mormon.org. I've given money to the Mormons. I'll be on a list now. I'll have Donny Osmond coming to my door. I'd rather join the Scientologists, at least they've got aliens. And the weird thing is, there's extras on this. On a piece of nonsense like this. 25 minutes long, and the restoration featurette on it is 19 minutes. So the restoration of this, which doesn't need restored because nobody cares how good this looks, is nearly as long as the film. And then you get the actual nativity. They do a little version of the nativity for you, which is 5 minutes long, because there isn't much to that, Here's your frankincense, gold and myrrh. Oh, here, Jesus, you're going to have a good time for the next 30 years. Next 3 years will be a bit hit and miss, and then it's going to be... and then... God So Loved the World. 25 minutes of carols of Christmas by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, in which you can listen to, uninterrupted mind you, full versions of God So Loved the World, Joy to the World, Whence Is That Goodly Fragrance Flowing. I think that's Calvin Klein, CK1's old advertising slogan. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Boom, boom. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Boom, boom. I think that was Uriah Heep who did that originally. When shall we give to the babe in the manger? Whenever it wants, is Jesus. Ding dong merrily on high. It's not really Jesus, is it? It's just a kind of vaguely Christmas. And then the first Noel again. The first Noel, Israel. So it should be the first Noel, Israel. They don't rhyme at all. Don't try and make them rhyme. However, if you want to order a copy, then please visit www.mormon.org. Tell them I sent you for a 10% discount. May Satan forgive me for what I have done this day. This must be the only review of Mr. Kruger's Christmas on YouTube. I thought Magic Town was a little bit obscure. We have gone down a rabbit hole here, folks. We have just disappeared. There's nothing more I can possibly say about this film. Never see it. I've just given you a much better version through my review than you could possibly imagine the film being. It's 25 minutes long, and I promise you it feels 10, 15 hours long. But Jimmy Stewart's quite good on it. Takes it seriously. The rest of the cast are atrocious. Cat's quite good. Yeah. George the cat's quite good. The tree's quite good. Bit wooden. Yeah, I'm going to end on that one. Can't top that. Listen, thank you very much for watching once more. Tune in tomorrow for, believe me, whatever I pick, it will be better. You're going to get a classic tomorrow, I promise you that. I don't know what yet, but you will get a classic, because after this, you deserve a treat. So whatever it'll be something special. Until then, let's be careful out there, huh? For me. Love and mercy, my dears. Love and mercy. Again, link in the comments for Sea of Tranquility, Monsters Den, Amicus, down there. Don't forget to subscribe to Pete, like it, share it. You can do that here as well, but I prefer to share the love. Again, love and mercy. Take it easy. And Jesus bless you, or whatever.